Yep. During the Cold War, I was just a young fellow, maybe 12, 13 years of age, and I just remember that there was a sense of mistrust when we mentioned the East and the West between the two sides. And I just mentioned that there was a fear, not a lot of communication, and the one thing that kind of stuck in my mind where I grew up, I remember a particular siren that would go off, and I never really realized what it may have been, but perhaps maybe I was thinking about it, maybe it had something to do with a warning. But yes, that's what I remember was a sense of mistrust between two sides. And the whole age of the nuclear weapon and so forth was first and forefront, and it was something that people were very aware of. And I think maybe a little bit of fear was involved in it, so that's how I kind of remember it a bit. I remember talking about it in classes, the nuclear war and the assassination of John F. Kennedy and Khrushchev. Those were some key people, the Cuban Missile Crisis, those were some key events that were taking place during that time. I was in elementary school, and I grew up in Westminster in elementary school, and of course I know more about it now, but I mean, it was a real testing of the waters between the East and the West, where Russia wanted to place its weapons, potential nuclear weapons, in Cuba, and the United States would not allow that. So it was a testing of wills, and at that time John F. Kennedy was the president, and there's no way that he would allow Cuban missiles in Cuba that was directed towards the United States. So there's no way he would allow that. And so the testing I remember was the Cuban Missile Crisis with the naval embargo, in which no ships were allowed to enter or exit from Cuba, and that took a lot of courage. And fortunately, that was the right call, because it easily could have led to World War III. So that's what I remember with the Cuban Missile Crisis. I remember Kennedy and Castro's name coming up all the time, and Russia playing a role in which the United States would not allow them to cross the line. The Berlin Wall, that was at the height, to me, when communism finally crumbled, as it should, because it really was only being held up by the use of force. But the Berlin Wall was a classic example of where both sides were talking to each other, they needed each other, they understand that, and a wall that separated both an ideology and people just didn't fit in the 20th century. And I think a real catalyst for that wall coming down is St. John Paul II, and particularly with Poland and Glasnost, and bringing together a greater sense of the world should work together. And the wall, those days are over, and I'm glad it took place. And seeing young people taking a hammer to the wall, breaking the wall, seeing Berlin, both East and West, coming together where families would unite, was really an important step, I think, in the 20th century to continue the dialogue that's needed between countries.